Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Police Accountability Show. Remember, when you watch the Police Accountability Show, you agree to being offended, as well as nothing that you see on the Police Accountability Show constitutes legal advice in any way, shape, or form. Please reach out to a local lawyer for your local laws. And welcome everyone to another The Police Accountability Show. I'm your host, Chad Christophers, and today our topic is the mental health and police. Do the police have the right to ignore people or blame the victim in mental health to get out of their work? Well, what do you think? Right? The police seem to stop working at anything that holds them back or stops them. You can have discredit victims that you can victimize over and over and over again. And who's discrediting them? That's right, doctors. Doctors can block you from the police system completely, and not because they should be able to. Crimes can still happen against people who are discredited. Why do we need discredited people in our society? I don't believe that we do. Right? We do have politicians. They're not discredited, are they? And they probably should be. Right? The problem is that the cops or the police or our authority figures can basically accuse anyone of mental health problems. The problem with mental health problems is they still don't believe, and there's many places out there that don't believe these mental health issues actually exist. Right? We are talking about people who don't know how our brains work. And I am talking about doctors. They have an absolutely terrible diagnosis rate. I've read overall doctors have only a 50% success in diagnosing. And if you take into account, and I can't go for other places because I certainly haven't studied them all, but here in Canada where I'm based, so far in cases, criminal cases, where they're brought to the police in serious crimes. Now, typically only murder. And what I mean by burden of evidence is the only time someone is completely independently reviewed of a mental health accusation is when it's a serious, such as murder charge, when someone's trying to get off on a murder charge and trying to say that they were in control of themselves or they weren't responsible for their actions. But if you actually do look at the cases so far put forward by our doctors and ones in the end that actually gone through, you'll notice that 97% of the time, our doctors have been proven wrong when independently reviewed. And I don't see that figure any different in any other country or jurisdiction. In fact, in many other countries, they've dismissed a lot of mental health issues as quackery, and they've actually ended the mental health system in those countries. So tell me, what do you think of the doctors discrediting themselves in the cases where people are seeking that they're not responsible for their actions for mental health reasons? 97% wrong. But yet the police still seem to think that they have the right to ignore citizens based upon it. There is no right of the police to ignore anyone that I can find in the law anywhere, and I haven't seen any example of it. But the police can then, if there's mental health accusations, require you to get a doctor. And I don't see why, when they've been proven wrong 97% of the time, to put in a police complaint. So the mental health system is blocking criminal complaints, criminal investigations, and keeping many criminals out of jail, because unless it's a murder investigation, you are not going to be completely independently reviewed, in which case the police will just ignore you, right? And you can even have evidence that a crime has taken place. You can have video. You can have receipts for what, and video of them taking it. And you know what? You can't report it missing or use the police service without a doctor. But yet, how is that possible? So we're supposed to get doctors now to use the police service? That's unreasonable. And why? Because what do doctors know about crimes? Why do doctors want to fight criminals? It doesn't make any sense when you really think about it, why we need a doctor. They should just be able, they could write on the complaint that we're as crazy as the day we were born, but I still believe that they should be able to take a complaint from the public, especially those with evidence. No one should be blocked from the police system. And why? Because that's the only form of rights we have. We're not allowed to defend ourselves. We only thing we can do is call the police, right? So we're not allowed. You have to call the police. But what happens to people who have accusations of mental health? Well, they get ignored. And why? Because the police just can ignore them. Why? There's no consequence to them, right? And I would be kind of curious to see how many cases are being blocked by doctors and the mental health system right now. How many criminal cases, how many criminal complaints, how many people aren't being prosecuted because of people being discredited by doctors. And these doctors don't even know how our brains work. They only have a 50% success rate in diagnoses, and when independently reviewed, they're called wrong 97% of the time. So to me, it's just outrageous. So what can you do as a citizen to stop this joke? Because this is taking up money, time, and resources, and you're basically making anyone with mental health accusations a victim and a torture victim for life. And why? For what? How does that benefit the person? How does that benefit our society? I don't believe it does. But you can make a difference. You can support police accountability. You could write to your local politicians and be like, we need to stop listening to people with a failure rate of 97%. We need to. That's an unacceptable failure rate, right? These doctors don't know how our brains work and are just making guesses, educated guesses that unfortunately our diagnoses are proven wrong 50% of the time. And this isn't an accurate description of every single doctor. I'm talking about overall numbers for all doctors. I'm not singling out any specific doctor here. I'm singling out all the doctors. Well, that wouldn't really be singling out, would it? Of course not. But that's the point. So you can make a difference. You can tell the police, you can tell the politicians, hey, this is nonsense. This is quackery. You have no right to refuse people their rights as a citizen at any time, under any circumstances, and certainly should not be because a field of doctors who are completely discredited to everywhere but here accuse of mental health issues. And not just that, there's people that accuse other people of mental health issues all the time. People fighting with their neighbors, people that they don't like other people. You know what I mean? People have had neighbors committed for nonsense, right? Because they're fighting with the neighbor. They can swat people with the mental health system just the same as you're being swatted with the police. And when you're swatted with the mental health system, the police don't fight it. They're looking for any excuse they can come up with that they don't have to help you or do any work at that time, just like you at work. So this system is completely useless. It should be banned. It should not be allowed to have people's medical stuff in these files. And what they did in other countries to solve the mental health swatting is they found that 40% of the time, the person accusing the other person of mental health problems was actually the one experiencing mental health issues. So that means if they found that, and that's an actual real statistic from countries overseas dealing with the mental health issue, then shouldn't we be then following suit? And we're talking about the countries and the schools that invented this mental health system that we're talking about here. It's been discredited in those places called quackery and everything else. Because why? Because they don't know how our brains work. It could be allergic reactions. There could be many different things causing the same what appears to be a mental or medical illness with a person. We just don't know enough about the human body to accurately, diagnose or, understand what's going on with people. So that's where this needs to be removed. They can call us crazy all they want. You should be able to tell the person's crazy by the complaint. Right? It shouldn't be something that they have to be convinced of. Like, it shouldn't be something they see in their computer and they go, oh, well, this person's crazy. It shouldn't be there. Right? They should be able to evaluate each situation as it happens and determine for themselves whether this person is saying crazy stuff or not. That's what I believe. But what do you believe? Do you think that we should make it illegal for the cops to listen to doctors? I do. Because why? Because of their extreme failure rate. You should not be able to block criminal investigations, accusations of crimes, criminal complaints, or reporting stuff stolen because of mental health accusations. Because this field just simply isn't doing well enough. As well as it creates a problem where the police get an easy excuse to getting out of work. So tell me in the comments, should we end it today? I think so. End the mental health in the police today. Make it so they can no longer ignore citizens due to mental health. And one last thing to leave you with, and I've seen the statistic for mental health that 1 in every 7 people on our planet at some point has experienced a mental illness. I mean, at this point, that's 1 out of every 7. That's a huge number. So that means I apologize. I'm saying the numbers incorrectly. I've seen a statistic 7 out of every 10 people. 7 out of every 10 people have experienced a mental illness or a mental health problem in their lives. So you're telling me that we no longer service 70% of our society? Come on, guys. Get with it. Get real. Read a book. Figure it out. This is bull crap. Let's do something about it. Support police accountability and tell these guys things we should not be accusing people of medical problems that we can't even prove exist, that we can't show a picture of, and doctors have been discredited 97% of the time when putting them forward. My name is Chad Christophers. This is the Police Accountability Show. Don't work too hard.